These girls discovered a secret room in their shelter and learned they're going to be used as lab animals. The exact details of what they'll be used for will be revealed in this recap of the movie Level 16. We see the long corridors of a girls' shelter, more resembling a prison. Many teenage girls live here, among them are two friends, Vivian and Sophie. They sit in a bedroom and dream of a happy time when they'll be adopted. It turns out they've been in the shelter their whole lives and have never been outside. A siren blares. Numerous girls in long identical white dresses hurry to the sinks in the hallway. A camera is installed there. Each girl must wash up and show that she's clean. Everyone has to do it in a precise order to finish in a few seconds. Suddenly, Sophie drops her soap bottle onto the floor. The problem is that she has poor eyesight and can't find it. Sophie asks Vivian for help. Vivian rushes to her aid and picks up the bottle. As a result, she's a few seconds late starting her own washing. A red light immediately flashes and an alarm goes off. All the girls turn their faces to the wall as if they're prisoners in a real jail. A pair of guards appears in the hallway and drags the tearful Vivian to the entrance. She begs Sophie to tell everyone that she's not guilty, but her friend just stands there, afraid to move. The other girls remain silent too. Several years pass. We see that Vivian has grown up and now strictly follows all the rules, showing no emotions. In classes that resemble group therapy sessions, the girls are taught to be reserved, patient and well-mannered. Their mentor, Miss Brixill, appears before the girls. She's an elegant woman with long blonde hair. She delivers joyful news to them. The girls are being promoted to level 16. This is their final year in the shelter, and after that, they'll be adopted and join new families. Vivian and a few other girls move to the new section, Rose Hall. Here, they'll finally have separate beds. Vivian reunites with her former friend Sophie. While Sophie is happy about the reunion, Vivian looks at her with complete indifference, making it clear that she hasn't forgiven her for the soap incident. After breakfast, Sophie finds Vivian in the restroom and apologizes again. However, Vivian grabs her former friend, demanding she keeps quiet and not reveal her past. Another sound signal goes off. Miss Brixill appears and informs the girls that sponsors will visit the shelter soon and choose their new daughters. It's such an important event that the graduates are even given gifts, white lace dresses with their names embroidered on the waist. We learned that the girls can't read their own names because they weren't taught to read. They were diligently trained to be obedient, work hard, and most importantly, take care of their skin. But it seems they weren't taught anything else. The girls in the shelter are happy and eagerly anticipate meeting their new parents. Only Sophie looks very anxious. She asks Vivian not to take the vitamins they're given today, the ones they consume daily. The girls stand before the camera and take the blue capsules. Vivian decides to listen to Sophie and doesn't swallow the capsule. She spits it out in the toilet. As soon as the sound signal goes off, Vivian lies down on her bed. She's surprised that all the girls in the room fall into a very deep sleep in a matter of seconds. Suddenly, Sophie appears and tries to tell Vivian the truth about the place. The girls are given sedatives, not vitamins, which is why they won't wake up until the morning. Someone's footsteps echo in the hallway. Sophie hides and asks Vivian to pretend to be asleep. Miss Brixill enters the room with two guards. She points at several sleeping girls and the men carry them away. Among them is Vivian, who continues to pretend to be asleep. The girls are taken to the room. Vivian opens her eyes and looks around. She doesn't understand where they've been brought or why. She's terrified and closes her eyes again. An elderly couple enters the room. Miss Brixill describes the beautiful skin of the sleeping girls. The woman is indecisive, and the man demands her to make a choice. The lady picks the second girl, Olivia, and asks her husband to pay for this service. After that, Vivian is brought back to her bed. She's horrified. It turns out that sponsors aren't adopting them. They're buying them like goods at a market. The question is, what happens to them next? Sophie appears and urges her friend to escape from the shelter as soon as possible. She reveals that she's been avoiding the vitamins since the 13th level and knows all about what happens here at night. The shelter is very dangerous, but where can they run? They were always told that the outside air is toxic and unsuitable for life. Another strange event occurs during the day. They meet Dr. Miro. He carefully examines each girl and smiles at Vivian, and she realizes that no one can be trusted here. At night, when all the girls are asleep because of the sedatives, Vivian and Sophie discuss their escape plan. They need to get a pass card, otherwise they won't be able to leave the restricted area. Sophie suggests telling the other girls, but Vivian strongly disagrees. Someone could easily betray them, and then their plan would fail. During the next appointment with Dr. Miro, Vivian notices that he treats her differently from the other girls. She decides to use this to her advantage, and carefully observes how Dr. Miro uses his pass. Meanwhile, the strange events continue. One of the girls suddenly starts convulsing and collapses to the floor. Vivian helps her stand up and leads her to wash up. It seems to be the aftermath of a vaccine that they were recently given. The injection site is inflamed. The friends sense they have very little time left and need to take action. During the next examination by Dr. Miro, Vivian stops pretending to be sweet and obedient. She asks many questions, and the man is struck by her behavior. He gives her an injection with a concentrated vitamin solution. After some time, Sophie comes to Vivian. At night, she wants to take a pass from one of the guards. The issue is that he frequently peeks into the girls' sleeping quarters and touches them. Sophie and Vivian discuss their plan so passionately that two other girls overhear them. They're astonished that obedient Vivian is showing her discontent and anger. They quickly rush to the reporting room to inform Miss Brixill. The shelter's owner locks Vivian in a large cage and goes to speak with Dr. Miro. It turns out they're a couple, and their entire business is illegal. The woman is afraid that the police might find out about everything. She would prefer to keep the girls under anesthesia all the time. Miro explains that firstly, it's expensive, and secondly, it's harmful to their health and the condition of their skin. At night, Sophie prepares for the escape. She makes a rope from bed sheets and waits for the guard. When he enters the sleeping quarters and attempts to touch another girl, Sophie attacks him from behind and puts the rope around his neck. However, the guard is much stronger than the frail girl and knocks her down with a single blow. Sophie tries to escape, but the guard catches up with her. She falls to the floor after another blow and notices an iron nearby. She grabs it, strikes the guard on the head, and he faints. Sophie finds the man's pass, grabs it, and rushes to the cage where her friend is held. Unfortunately, she doesn't manage to open the cage in time, and an alarm goes off, and she's forced to flee. Sophie promises Vivian that she'll come back to rescue her. After a while, Miss Brixill appears and pulls Vivian out of the cage. The girls are gathered in one of the rooms again. Miss Brixill, Dr. Miro, and one of the guards stand before them. Sophie is accused of committing a terrible act and stealing a very important item that no one can find now. Until the stolen item is returned by the girls, one of them will be cruelly punished every day. Dr. Miro selects the first victim, and the guard leads the crying girl away into the hallway. Discipline in the shelter becomes even stricter. Now the girls take their pills under Mrs. Brixill's supervision. She closely watches Vivian and forces her to take the vitamins, which are actually sedatives. She informs Vivian that the sponsors are taking her tomorrow. Vivian realizes that she has very little time left. At night, she tries to resist the effects of the sedative by jabbing her arm with a sharp hairpin. In a nearly unconscious state, she finds Sophie's pass in her bedroom and tries to open the entrance door. Sadly, it's locked, as the pass is already disabled. In desperation, Vivian looks at the door and decides to remove its hinges using the pass as a makeshift tool. She succeeds. Opening the door, Vivian steps out into the hallway and struggles to reach the part of the building where the shelter leadership is located. At the same time, Miss Brixill enters Dr. Miro's office and searches through his desk, leaving her pass nearby. Vivian enters the office and demands that the shelter owner tells her where Sophie is. The woman responds that she's locked Sophie in the basement and attempts to inject Vivian with tranquilizer, but the girl doesn't give in so easily. A struggle ensues between them. Vivian manages to wrest the syringe with the medication from her and injects Miss Brixill herself. Taking the pass, Vivian approaches the door that leads to freedom. It seems she's ready to escape even without Sophie. However, Vivian still descends into the basement, unable to betray her friend. Vivian finds her friend in one of the cells and frees her. Sophie's hands are tied, and Vivian searches for something to untie them. The girls end up in an underground operating room, where they discover even more horrifying things about their shelter. On the tables, there is an array of sealed packages. An alarmed Vivian opens one of them and sees Rita's body inside. It's the same girl whom the guards took for punishment under Dr. Mirror's orders. There is no skin on her face. Vivian and Sophie are horrified to realize that each of the bags contained one of the girls they knew, and all of them have no faces. They see name tags neatly tied to the poor girl's feet. Vivian wants to escape as quickly as possible, but Sophie wants to save their friends. Armed with scalpels, the two friends go upstairs and approach the entrance door. Sophie asks Vivian to wait for her and give her a chance to correct a mistake she made in her childhood. Sophie goes to the 16th floor, while Vivian watches as guards open the door to a floor she has never been to before. The girl wants to know what's there. It's some kind of a room with a huge screen on the wall. Touching it, Vivian starts a promotional video. In it, Dr. Mirror and Miss Brixel offer their skin rejuvenation services at the Vestalis clinic. It's all very simple. The client is offered a variety of beautiful faces, and they choose which one they would like to have. The donor girl constantly receives a synthetic preparation to ensure a complete match of the donor's and the client's DNA. Thanks to this, a new young skin adapts easily, quickly and painlessly. Vivian cries out of horror and despair. At the same time, Sophie tells the other girls the horrifying truth, but they refuse to believe her. The shelter's residents are about to call the guards to return Sophie to her cell, but then Vivian enters the room. She brings Miss Brixel along, her hands tied. After the injection, the woman struggles to control herself, and thus quickly confesses to all her sins. Moreover, the girls find evidence of facial transplantation on Miss Brixel and realize that she also used someone else's skin. The girls understand that all this time, they weren't being saved or prepared for a better life. They were being raised like sheep or chickens to be sold to customers. The shelter's residents lock Miss Brixel in a cell and rush to leave the place as soon as possible. However, when they try to open the entrance door, an alarm goes off. The girls scatter across the yard in hopes of escaping. Armed guards chase after them. One of the guards attacks Vivian and Sophie, but the friends manage to push him from a great height. However, the man manages to wound Sophie. The friends run into a small room and barricade the door. The guards don't shoot, as they need the girls alive and with undamaged skin. Dr. Mirror arrives for negotiations. He claims that all the girls were sold to the shelter by their parents, and that he supposedly saved them, giving them a normal life. The man offers Vivian a deal. She must help him return all the girls to the shelter, including Sophie, and in return, he promises her freedom. Vivian doesn't believe the doctor and asks him how much her face is worth. The man honestly replies that he spent 16 years of his life on it, and it's priceless to him. Then Vivian takes a scalpel and makes several cuts on her skin so that no one can use it. She cries from pain and anger, and the guards immediately start making calls. Dr. Mirror summons his boss, and after some time, a shot is heard. It seems that the boss has dealt with Dr. Mirror. In the morning, the door to the room where Vivian and Sophie are hiding is broken down by the Belarusian emergency services. The girls step outside and see that it's raining. They cry, hold hands, and for the first time in their lives, look at the sun. What other recaps would you like to see? Write your suggestions and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. You've been watching the Movie Cat channel.